Lucas Marshall was a name that echoed in the corridors of New York's elite business circles, synonymous with success, power, and an unyielding arrogance that made him both revered and reviled. With his perfectly tailored suits, sharp features, and an aura of undeniable confidence, Lucas had cultivated an image of a self-made millionaire who thrived on competition. His life was a whirlwind of high-stakes negotiations, luxurious parties, and beautiful women who vied for his attention. However, beneath the polished exterior lay a man who relished control, often viewing others as mere pawns in his grand game of success. On a crisp autumn evening, Lucas found himself at one of the most extravagant parties of the season, held in a penthouse that offered breathtaking views of the Manhattan skyline. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and the soft murmur of laughter and clinking glasses. Crystal chandeliers bathed the room in a warm glow, illuminating the lavish decor that spoke of opulence and excess. Guests draped in designer outfits mingled effortlessly, their conversations punctuated by bursts of laughter and playful banter. Amidst this backdrop of glamour, Lucas stood out, commanding attention with his charismatic presence. He was the center of his friend's universe, effortlessly navigating between groups, exchanging jokes and confident smirks. As the night wore on, champagne flowed freely, and the atmosphere became increasingly electric. Yet, for all the glitz and excitement, Lucas felt a twinge of boredom. He was accustomed to winning, and tonight's festivities felt all too predictable. It was then that Jack, Lucas's closest friend and confidant, leaned in with a mischievous glint in his eye. Jack was a man of audacity, known for his bold challenges and irreverent sense of humor. He was the kind of friend who could spark adventure in the most mundane of moments, and tonight was no different. "Let's make things interesting, shall we?" he said, a sly smile creeping across his face. The challenge was clear. Lucas's curiosity piqued as he turned to face him. Jack leaned closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a closely guarded secret. "I bet you wouldn't have the guts to marry a woman who doesn't fit your usual type." His words hung in the air, a provocative statement that immediately captured Lucas's attention. It was a bold move, one that ignited a spark of competition within Lucas. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued and slightly taken aback by the challenge. Marrying someone who didn't conform to his preferences was a concept that both intrigued and frustrated him. "And what's the prize?" Lucas asked, his competitive nature awakening, a grin forming on his lips. Jack lifted his champagne glass, his smirk widening. $1 million to the winner, but there's a catch. You have to marry her and stay married for at least 6 months. The stakes were set, and Lucas felt the rush of adrenaline coursing through him. The thought of winning a bet of this magnitude was exhilarating, but the prospect of marrying an unconventional woman was equally daunting. Nevertheless, Lucas Marshall was never one to back down from a challenge. Little did he know that this bet would set off a chain of events that would change his life in ways he could never have anticipated. As the laughter and music swirled around them, Jack's challenge lingered in the air, igniting a flame of curiosity and excitement within Lucas. The mere suggestion of marrying a woman who didn't fit his meticulously curated type was both absurd and thrilling. Lucas had always gravitated towards the glamorous and sophisticated, a lineup of stunning models and socialites who embodied the high life he adored. Yet, Jack's words had struck a chord, pushing Lucas to consider something entirely different, something that challenged the very foundation of his identity. Lucas leaned back in his chair, his mind racing as he processed the implications of Jack's bet. He could feel the familiar rush of adrenaline coursing through his veins, a feeling that had propelled him to success in both business and life. He loved a good competition, and this one was particularly enticing. The thought of conquering such a challenge piqued his interest. It felt like a game he was determined to win. Yet, beneath the surface of his bravado, a hint of uncertainty flickered. Marrying an unconventional woman meant stepping outside the comfortable confines of his world, a world filled with luxury, beauty, and status. "What are you thinking?" Jack nudged him, his expression a mixture of amusement and anticipation. Lucas could see the glint of mischief in Jack's eyes, knowing he had successfully planted a seed of intrigue in his friend's mind. You've always said you can have anyone you want. Is this bet really going to intimidate you? Intimidate? Not at all, Lucas shot back, a playful smirk forming on his lips. I'm just weighing my options. In truth, the prospect excited him more than he wanted to admit. The challenge felt like a puzzle waiting to be solved, a game that would allow him to flex his considerable skills in charm and persuasion. Marrying someone outside his typical type could be an exhilarating adventure, an opportunity to showcase his ability to conquer any situation. Come on, Lucas. Just think about it. $1 million. Jack pressed, raising an eyebrow, his enthusiasm infectious. You know you're always looking for the next big thrill. This could be it. Imagine the stories you'd have to tell. Lucas couldn't help but chuckle at the thought. $1 million wasn't just a prize, it was a testament to his prowess. It symbolized victory, validation of his confidence and charisma. Yet, it wasn't just the money that captivated him, it was the thrill of the chase, the exhilarating prospect of proving himself once again. The idea of marrying someone unconventional, someone who might challenge him in ways he had never anticipated, set his heart racing. Okay, I'm in, Lucas declared, a newfound determination in his voice. But there are rules, right? What are the conditions? Jack's grin widened as he launched into the specifics. You have to marry her and stay married for at least 6 months. No backing out, no tricks. You need to make it work, no matter how hard it gets. Lucas nodded, excitement mingling with a hint of apprehension. The stakes had been raised, and he felt the pressure to navigate this uncharted territory. Who would this woman be? What would she look like? Would she be able to handle the whirlwind of Lucas's life? The questions danced in his mind, fueling his curiosity. As the night progressed, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that this bet could be more than just a game. It was a challenge that could redefine him, push him beyond his limits, and perhaps even lead to unexpected revelations about love and connection. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. He had always been the master of his domain, but now, the prospect of venturing into the unknown filled him with a potent mix of anticipation and uncertainty. With Jack's challenge hanging over him like a tantalizing promise, Lucas Marshall prepared to step into a new adventure, one that would challenge everything he believed about himself and the world around him. Little did he know that this bet would not only test his skills, but also unravel the very essence of what it meant to truly connect with another person. The day finally arrived when Lucas was to meet Chloe Richards, the woman who would soon become the focal point of his unconventional bet. As he approached the upscale restaurant, a sense of anticipation mixed with nervousness bubbled within him. He had prepared himself for a variety of scenarios, yet he was wholly unprepared for the woman he was about to encounter. Chloe was unlike anyone he had ever met. As she entered the restaurant, a confident presence filled the room, drawing the eyes of both patrons and staff alike. She walked with an air of independence, her posture straight and her head held high. In a world that often prized slim figures and conventional beauty, Chloe proudly defied these norms. She was a full-figured woman, exuding an aura of self-assurance that radiated from within. Her style was a bold statement. Dressed in a vibrant, tailored dress that accentuated her curves, she commanded respect without uttering a single word. As Lucas observed her from across the room, he felt a mix of intrigue and admiration. He had braced himself for someone who might feel intimidated by the opulence of their surroundings, but Chloe seemed unfazed by the lavish decor and the hushed whispers of the upscale clientele. The flickering candlelight reflected off her striking features, but it was her unwavering gaze that captured Lucas's attention. When she spotted him, a hint of a smile played at the corners of her lips, and she made her way over with purposeful strides. "Lucas Marshall," she greeted, her voice steady and warm as she extended her hand for a firm shake. "I've heard quite a bit about you." Lucas felt a jolt of surprise at her directness. Most women who met him typically approached with a mix of awe and eagerness, but not Chloe. There was no hint of flattery in her tone, just genuine curiosity. "Chloe Richards," he replied, trying to mask his intrigue with a controlled smile. Her handshake was strong, and he found himself momentarily captivated by her confidence. "Let's not beat around the bush, shall we?" she continued, settling into her chair with a composed demeanor. "I know why we're here, and I know about the bet." Lucas was taken aback by her bluntness, his initial impression of her softening into respect. Most people danced around the subject, but Chloe cut straight to the heart of the matter, an approach he found refreshing. "I see you're well informed," he replied, his curiosity piqued. "What do you think about it?" Chloe leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms in a relaxed manner. "Honestly, I think it's ridiculous. But here we are. 6 months is 6 months. You get $1 million, and I get, well, whatever I can out of this arrangement." Her eyes held his with an intensity that made it clear she was not one to shy away from confrontation. Lucas chuckled, partially amused and partially impressed. "And what do you plan to get out of this?" he asked, genuinely interested. "Freedom," she replied without hesitation. "I'm not interested in your money or the luxurious lifestyle you flaunt. I want you to understand that I won't be manipulated or controlled by you. This is a contract, and I intend to walk away from it exactly the same way I entered." Lucas's initial impression of her as just another woman in a bet was rapidly evolving. He was accustomed to charming and persuading women, often winning them over with lavish gifts and a charismatic personality. But Chloe wasn't the type to be swayed by material wealth. Her conviction intrigued him, and he felt a spark of admiration for her determination. "Challenge accepted," he replied, the corners of his mouth twitching upward in a playful grin. As the conversation flowed, Lucas found himself drawn deeper into Chloe's world. She was a woman of substance, unafraid to voice her thoughts and opinions. They discussed everything from her career aspirations to her passion for art, and Lucas was taken aback by her intellect and depth. She wasn't merely a player in his game. She was a formidable opponent who demanded respect. "You do realize, Lucas, that 6 months can change a lot," Chloe stated, her tone shifting slightly. "People can grow, evolve, and sometimes even surprise themselves. If you think you can charm me into becoming just another trophy on your wall, you're in for a rude awakening." Her words lingered in the air, and Lucas felt a strange sense of exhilaration. For the first time, he was faced with someone who was not intimidated by him, someone who challenged his assumptions and made him question his strategies. "I like a challenge," he admitted, the thrill of the game igniting within him once more. As the evening wore on, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that this bet might be unlike any he had ever encountered. Chloe was not just a woman he needed to win over. She represented something deeper, a chance to explore the boundaries of his own understanding of relationships. The prospect of marrying her, even for a bet, was becoming more intriguing by the minute. He felt an unexpected excitement brewing within him, a sense that this venture could lead to something beyond mere victory. In the weeks that followed their initial meeting, Lucas and Chloe found themselves navigating the peculiar landscape of their unconventional marriage. Their interactions were marked by a blend of tension and intrigue, as Lucas endeavored to understand this woman who had so boldly challenged his worldview. One crisp Saturday afternoon, Lucas suggested they meet at a cafe that was a far cry from the upscale restaurants he usually frequented. He wanted to see Chloe in a more casual setting, to understand the woman beyond the formalities of their arrangement. As he approached the cafe, he noticed a quaint little place with outdoor seating, adorned with twinkling fairy lights and blooming flowers. It exuded a cozy charm that contrasted sharply with the glitz of their previous encounters. When he entered, Chloe was already seated at a corner table, sipping a cup of tea, seemingly at ease. She wore a simple yet stylish outfit, a flowy blouse and jeans that highlighted her figure without trying too hard. As she looked up and met his gaze, Lucas felt a jolt of admiration. There was something refreshingly authentic about her presence, and she seemed perfectly content in her own skin. "Thought you preferred 5-star restaurants," Chloe teased, a playful smile gracing her lips as Lucas settled across from her. "Sometimes it's good to break the routine," he replied, trying to sound casual. But as he glanced around the cafe, he felt a bit out of place. The atmosphere was relaxed, and the patrons seemed to be enjoying leisurely conversations, a stark contrast to the high-pressure environment he was accustomed to. Their conversation flowed easily at first, filled with light banter and surface-level topics. Lucas found himself genuinely enjoying Chloe's company, her laughter infectious and her insights refreshing. However, it wasn't long before Chloe steered the conversation back to the core of their arrangement. "If we're really going through with this," she began, placing her cup of tea down, "I want to make a few things clear." Her tone shifted, and Lucas could sense the seriousness behind her words. "I'm listening," he replied, intrigued. "I'm not interested in your money or your luxurious lifestyle," Chloe asserted, her gaze unwavering. "This is a marriage of convenience for both of us, and I plan on walking away from it exactly the same as I entered. 6 months may seem short, but a lot can change in that time. If you think you can manipulate or control me, you're mistaken." Lucas leaned back in his chair, absorbing her words. He was used to being the one in control, the one who dictated the terms. But with Chloe, the rules were different. She was a force of nature, and her fierce independence was both disarming and exhilarating. For the first time in his life, he was confronted with a woman who wasn't swayed by his charm or wealth, a woman who held her ground firmly. "Challenge accepted," Lucas replied, unable to suppress a grin. The prospect of winning over someone so unyielding was becoming increasingly appealing to him. He saw her as a unique challenge, unlike any woman he had ever encountered before. The thrill of the game intensified with each interaction, and he found himself looking forward to their meetings more than he anticipated. Their subsequent encounters varied from the vibrant streets of New York to hidden gems around the city. One afternoon, they visited a local art gallery that showcased emerging artists. Lucas had thought he could impress Chloe with his knowledge of the art world, but she quickly turned the tables. "Art is about feeling, Lucas," she said, gazing intently at a bold abstract piece. "It's not just about who painted it or what it's worth. It's about what it stirs within you." Her perspective was refreshing, and Lucas found himself captivated not only by the art but by her insights. They spent hours discussing their interpretations, and he was struck by her depth of thought. Chloe was more than just a woman in a bet. She was a person with passions and convictions, and he couldn't help but admire her fortitude. As their relationship continued to develop, Lucas made an effort to understand Chloe's need for independence. He observed how she navigated the world with a sense of purpose, juggling her career and personal interests without compromise. She worked as a community organizer, fiercely advocating for social justice issues and dedicating her time to causes she believed in. One evening, Chloe invited Lucas to one of her community events, a fundraiser for a local nonprofit that provided resources for underprivileged children. Lucas hesitated, unsure of how he would fit into her world, but he agreed to attend. When they arrived, Chloe was in her element, greeting guests and passionately speaking about the cause. Lucas watched her from a distance, captivated by her confidence and charisma. As she spoke, it became clear that this was her true passion, helping others, making a difference. "Thank you for coming, Lucas," she said later that night, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It means a lot to me that you're here." "I wouldn't miss it for the world," he replied, sincerity lacing his tone. He realized that supporting Chloe's endeavors was important to her, and he wanted to be there for her in a way that went beyond the superficial. However, the more Lucas learned about her, the more he felt the weight of the challenge ahead. Chloe's unwavering spirit reminded him that he could not merely charm her with wealth or grand gestures. He needed to earn her respect. This realization ignited a new sense of determination within him. He wanted to understand her, to engage with her world, and to truly connect with the person she was. Their conversations became deeper, shifting from playful banter to meaningful discussions about their hopes, dreams, and fears. Lucas found himself opening up in ways he had never expected. He shared stories from his childhood, revealing the insecurities that lay beneath his confident facade. In return, Chloe spoke candidly about her struggles and the importance of resilience. Through these exchanges, Lucas began to see Chloe not just as a challenge, but as a partner who could help him grow. He admired her fierce independence and began to question his own views on relationships and power dynamics. Could a true partnership exist between them? One afternoon, as they strolled through Central Park, Chloe paused to look at the colorful autumn leaves that blanketed the ground. "You know, Lucas, I believe independence doesn't mean isolation," she said, her voice contemplative. "It means knowing yourself well enough to allow someone else in without losing who you are." Her words resonated deeply with him, challenging his preconceived notions about love and control. Lucas realized that to truly connect with Chloe, he needed to embrace vulnerability, a concept that had always made him uncomfortable. As they continued their walk, Lucas felt a shift within himself. The thrill of the bet was still present, but it had morphed into something more profound. Chloe was not just a pawn in his game. She was a formidable player in her own right, capable of reshaping his understanding of what it meant to be in a relationship. Lucas began to appreciate the unique dynamic they shared. He was no longer simply focused on winning. He was genuinely invested in exploring the depths of their connection. Chloe was challenging him in ways he had never anticipated, forcing him to confront his vulnerabilities and the very essence of who he was. In the days that followed, Lucas approached their meetings with a renewed sense of purpose. He was eager to learn from Chloe and grow alongside her, all while respecting her independence. The bet had opened a door to a relationship that was beginning to blossom into something neither of them had expected. As their bond deepened, Lucas realized that perhaps this journey was not just about winning $1 million. It was about discovering a meaningful connection that could change both of their lives forever. The day of the wedding arrived with a sense of understated elegance, a stark contrast to the lavish celebrations Lucas was accustomed to. The ceremony took place in a quaint, intimate venue, a small garden surrounded by trees adorned with delicate fairy lights, casting a soft glow that added a touch of magic to the proceedings. There were no extravagant decorations or ostentatious displays. Instead, the setting reflected simplicity and authenticity, echoing Chloe's values and perspective on life. As Lucas stood at the altar, dressed in a sharp but modest suit, he felt a mix of emotions swirling within him. The small gathering of family and friends added an intimate touch, and he found himself appreciating the warmth of their presence. He had envisioned a grand affair, yet as he looked around, he realized that this was not just a wedding. It was a moment that encapsulated the essence of their relationship, a commitment built on a bet but transformed into something deeper. Chloe appeared moments later, a vision in a flowing white dress that radiated elegance without being overly ornate. She walked down the aisle with a serene confidence, her expression calm yet resolute. Lucas felt a flutter of admiration as she approached, understanding that this was more than a mere transaction. It was a union that would challenge both of them in unforeseen ways. The officiant began the ceremony with a few words about love and partnership, but Lucas couldn't help but feel that their marriage was more akin to a business contract than a romantic union. The terms were clear. They were bound to each other for 6 months, an arrangement fueled by the thrill of a bet. The thought lingered in the back of his mind, reminding him of the stakes involved. However, as Chloe took his hands and looked into his eyes, something shifted within him. "I promise to respect you and your independence," Lucas said during the vows, his voice steady. "I may not fully understand your world, but I am willing to learn." The sincerity in his words surprised even him, as he realized he meant every one of them. Chloe responded with equal conviction. "I promise to remain true to myself and not to be molded by your expectations or societal norms. This marriage is a partnership, and I intend to approach it with honesty and authenticity." Her words echoed through the garden, a declaration of her unwavering spirit and determination. As they exchanged rings, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely a formality, a business transaction to fulfill the terms of their bet. Yet, as they stood side by side, he sensed a shift in their dynamic. There was an unspoken understanding blossoming between them, one that transcended the superficial nature of their agreement. The ceremony concluded with a simple kiss, sealing their vows. The applause from their guests rang out like a gentle reminder of the support surrounding them, but Lucas felt an internal conflict brewing. He was a man used to winning, to controlling every aspect of his life. Now, standing next to Chloe, he felt the weight of an unfamiliar uncertainty. As they mingled with guests after the ceremony, Lucas began to notice the differences in their outlooks on life. While he had always viewed relationships through the lens of power and possession, Chloe approached them with an emphasis on mutual respect and individuality. Guests praised her for her passionate work in the community and her unwavering commitment to social justice, and Lucas felt a sense of pride swell within him, pride not just in his connection to her but in her strong principles and values. "Lucas, I want you to know," Chloe said softly as they stepped away from the crowd for a moment, "this marriage is an opportunity for both of us to grow. I don't expect you to change overnight, but I do hope we can learn from one another." Her words resonated deeply. Lucas had always been the one guiding others, but now he found himself in a position where he needed to learn, to adapt and grow in ways he hadn't anticipated. The thought was both daunting and invigorating. "Absolutely," he replied, a newfound determination settling in. "I'm willing to meet you halfway. This isn't just about the bet anymore. I want to understand you, your world." As they returned to their guests, the atmosphere around them felt lighter, charged with an energy that Lucas hadn't expected. Perhaps this arrangement could evolve into something more meaningful, something that could challenge both of them to be better. The reception that followed was a simple gathering of friends and family sharing stories, laughter, and heartfelt toasts. Lucas watched as Chloe interacted with their guests, her warmth and genuine nature drawing everyone in. She was the heart of the celebration, her spirit infectious. In that moment, Lucas realized that their differences were not a barrier but a bridge to a deeper connection. As the evening wore on, Lucas found himself reflecting on the journey ahead. The next 6 months would undoubtedly be filled with challenges, but as he glanced at Chloe, radiating joy and confidence, he felt a surge of optimism. This marriage, rooted in a bet, had the potential to blossom into something transformative, a partnership built on respect, understanding, and shared growth. In the quiet moments they stole away from the crowd, Lucas and Chloe exchanged glances that spoke volumes. They were embarking on a journey that was unpredictable, perhaps even messy, but it was theirs. And as they stood together at the start of this new chapter, Lucas couldn't help but feel that, in the end, they were both in for the ride of their lives. After their wedding, Lucas was filled with a renewed sense of determination. He was committed to winning Chloe over, believing that his usual methods of charm and extravagance would do the trick. He wanted to impress her, to show her that he could provide a lifestyle filled with luxury and excitement. With each passing day, he plotted ways to sweep her off her feet, to break down the barriers that had formed around her heart. Lucas started with grand gestures. He surprised Chloe with lavish gifts, designer handbags, exquisite jewelry, and even a luxurious weekend getaway to a private resort. He envisioned her delight as she unwrapped each gift, picturing the sparkle in her eyes as she accepted his offerings. But much to his frustration, each time he presented her with something, Chloe's reaction was far from what he had hoped. "Lucas, I really appreciate this, but I don't need any of these things," she would say, her tone firm yet polite. "I'm not interested in material possessions. I want to be treated as an equal, not as someone who can be bought." Her responses felt like cold water splashed in his face, shocking him back to reality. The luxurious lifestyle that he had always believed to be a ticket to affection and approval meant nothing to her. Lucas struggled to understand. How could someone resist such opulence? In his world, material wealth was a means to forge connections, to express love and admiration. But with Chloe, every attempt at grandeur fell flat. Frustration began to build within Lucas. He had always been the one in control, the one who called the shots, yet here he was, trying to impress a woman who seemed entirely unfazed by his wealth. The more he tried, the more Chloe pushed back, asserting her independence with a steadfastness that both intrigued and exasperated him. One evening, determined to break through, Lucas invited Chloe to a gala event hosted by one of his business associates. He envisioned a night filled with glamour, hoping the sophisticated ambience would enchant her. As they arrived, the glittering lights and elegant crowd dazzled the senses. Lucas was confident that this would be the moment Chloe would appreciate the world he belonged to. "Just wait until you see the ballroom," he said, grinning as he took her hand. "It's spectacular." But as they entered, Chloe's expression remained unchanged. She surveyed the room with a keen eye, not awed by the extravagance but rather assessing it with a critical mind. The opulence that dazzled Lucas did not captivate her. Instead, she seemed to feel out of place among the social elite who fawned over wealth and status. "Lucas," she said quietly, her tone serious, "this isn't me. I'm not comfortable in environments like this. I'd rather be at a local fundraiser or an art exhibit where the focus is on people, not just on appearances." Lucas felt a pang of disappointment. "I thought you might enjoy this," he replied, trying to mask his frustration. "It's an opportunity to network, to meet influential people. This is part of my world, Chloe." Her eyes softened, but her resolve remained unyielding. "I respect your world, but it doesn't have to be mine. I don't want to feel like a trophy at a display case. I want to connect with people on a deeper level." Lucas's heart sank. He had envisioned this night as a breakthrough, a way to showcase the best of what he could offer, but instead, it highlighted the chasm between them. He began to realize that no matter how much he showered her with gifts or extravagant experiences, he would never reach her heart through superficial means. In the days that followed, Lucas's frustration only deepened. He found himself questioning every move he made. What did Chloe truly want? Why was she so resistant to his attempts to win her over? The nagging uncertainty gnawed at him, making it difficult to concentrate on his work and other aspects of his life. In an effort to regain control, Lucas resorted to more subtle tactics, believing that if he could just guide Chloe into his world, she would come to appreciate it as he did. He began to manipulate situations, ensuring they attended events that showcased his business prowess, convinced that once she saw his success up close, she would soften. However, each time he tried to direct their path, Chloe stood her ground. "Lucas, I appreciate your intentions, but I won't be pushed into a mold that doesn't fit me. I refuse to let you control my life or dictate how I should feel about things." Her words struck a chord, forcing Lucas to confront the reality that his approach had been fundamentally flawed. Chloe was not a prize to be won or a challenge to conquer. She was a fiercely independent woman who valued her autonomy above all else. This was a concept he had always struggled to grasp, but he was beginning to understand the depths of her resistance. Chloe's independence was not just a barrier, it was a core part of who she was. She had built her life on principles of self-sufficiency and authenticity, and no amount of luxury could sway her from that foundation. Lucas felt a mix of admiration and frustration. He respected her strength, yet he grappled with the feelings of helplessness it stirred within him. After a particularly heated discussion about their differing views on success and happiness, Lucas found himself alone in the penthouse, staring out at the city skyline. The glow of the city lights reflected his inner turmoil. He felt like a man at a crossroads, torn between his desire to win Chloe over and the realization that he needed to change his approach. As he reflected on their relationship, Lucas recognized that he could not simply charm Chloe into submission. He needed to embrace her independence, to let go of the control he had clung to for so long. The thought was daunting, but he realized that true connection required vulnerability and respect, not manipulation. With this newfound understanding, Lucas resolved to step back, to allow Chloe to dictate the terms of their relationship without interference. It was a leap into the unknown, but perhaps it was the only way forward. After all, love could not be won through gifts or lavish experiences. It had to be cultivated through mutual respect, understanding, and a willingness to meet each other halfway. As Lucas prepared to face Chloe again, he felt a flicker of hope. The journey ahead would be challenging, but it might also be the key to unlocking a deeper connection between them, one that transcended the confines of their bet and flourished into something truly meaningful. As the weeks passed, the initial thrill of their unconventional marriage began to fade, replaced by an undercurrent of tension that Lucas could no longer ignore. The more he tried to impress Chloe with his lifestyle, the more it became clear that his tactics were failing. In a desperate attempt to regain control over the situation, Lucas began to adopt increasingly manipulative behaviors, isolating Chloe from her work and friends in a misguided effort to make her rely on him. It started subtly. Lucas would casually suggest that Chloe skip her community events or cancel meetings with her colleagues, offering reasons that seemed benign at first. "You don't need to go to that fundraiser tonight. We have a dinner reservation at that new restaurant you mentioned," he would say with a charming smile, masking the underlying intent to keep her close. But as Chloe's calendar filled with cancellations, she began to sense the weight of his influence bearing down on her. "Lucas, I have to go," she insisted one evening, her voice steady but filled with frustration. "These events are important to me. They're not just part of my job, they're part of who I am." Lucas, feeling threatened by her independence, tried to downplay her commitments. "I understand, but can't you see how much more fun we could have together? You're always so busy with work. Don't you want to enjoy life?" His attempts at manipulation were met with resistance, and the arguments began to escalate. Chloe stood her ground, refusing to let Lucas dictate her choices. "You're not giving me a choice, Lucas. I didn't marry you to lose myself in your world. I married you to share my life, not to be controlled by it." The growing tension in their relationship reached a boiling point when Chloe confronted him about his behavior. "I feel like you're trying to suffocate me," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "This isn't love, it's manipulation. I need my freedom, and I need you to respect that." Lucas was taken aback, the words hitting him like a punch to the gut. He had never seen himself as controlling, but as she laid it bare, he couldn't deny the truth in her accusation. Yet, rather than back down, he dug his heels in, fueled by a mix of pride and desperation. "I'm just trying to protect you. You don't understand how cutthroat your world can be. I'm looking out for you. Looking out for me." Chloe shot back, incredulity lacing her tone. "You're not protecting me, you're stifling me. I can handle my life, and I want to live it on my own terms." The arguments grew more heated and frequent, each clash exposing the rifts that had begun to form between them. Lucas's controlling nature clashed violently with Chloe's fierce independence, creating an environment fraught with conflict. They were two people once drawn together by the thrill of a bet, now caught in a power struggle that threatened to unravel the fragile fabric of their marriage. On one particularly tense evening, as they sat in the living room, the air thick with unspoken words, Lucas snapped. "Why can't you just be happy with what I'm offering? You have a life of luxury at your fingertips, and yet you're throwing it all away for some misguided sense of independence." Chloe's eyes blazed with defiance. "This isn't about luxury. It's about respect and autonomy. You seem to think that your world is better than mine, but you're missing the point. I want to make a difference in my community, and I won't let you take that away from me." Their voices rose, echoing off the walls of their penthouse, each word a painful reminder of the widening chasm between them. Chloe's heart raced as she felt the tension reaching a breaking point. Despite the chaos of their arguments, she remained resolute. She refused to be molded into someone she was not, standing firm against Lucas's attempts to control her. In those moments of conflict, Lucas felt a sense of helplessness creeping in, the realization that his usual methods of charm and persuasion were failing him. The walls he had built around himself were beginning to crumble, and he was faced with a choice: to continue down a path of manipulation or to confront the reality of his actions. But the more Chloe pushed back, the more he felt the urge to tighten his grip, a reaction rooted in fear of losing her entirely. As the crisis deepened, it became clear that their marriage was at a crossroads. They were two souls caught in a storm, each struggling to assert their identity while grappling with the painful consequences of their choices. The question loomed large: could they find a way to navigate through the turmoil, or would their differences ultimately tear them apart? The air in the penthouse was thick with tension as Lucas and Chloe faced each other, the weight of their unresolved conflicts pressing heavily on both of them. After weeks of escalating arguments and frustration, a storm was brewing, and the atmosphere crackled with unspoken words. It was during one particularly heated exchange that Chloe finally decided to unveil the plan that had been quietly forming in her mind since the beginning of their tumultuous marriage. "Lucas, I need you to listen to me," she said, her voice steady but laced with an intensity that caught his attention. "You've been trying to control me, to manipulate my life to fit your vision. But I want you to truly understand what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that power play." Lucas felt a jolt of unease at her words. "What do you mean?" he asked, his brow furrowing as he sensed the shift in her tone. Chloe took a deep breath, her gaze unwavering. "I want you to experience the feeling of being manipulated, to see how it feels when someone else is pulling the strings in your life. You need to understand the pain and frustration that comes with losing your autonomy." A flicker of fear crossed Lucas's mind, but he quickly masked it with skepticism. "Are you saying you're going to manipulate me? That's absurd, Chloe. We're supposed to be partners." "Are we?" she challenged, her voice rising. "Because every time you try to isolate me from my friends and my work, you're undermining our partnership. I need you to feel what it's like to be controlled, to recognize the consequences of your actions." For the first time, Lucas felt a chill of uncertainty wash over him. He had always prided himself on being in control, the master of his destiny. But Chloe's words were a mirror reflecting the darker side of his behavior, and he realized with a sinking feeling that he might not be the one holding the reins anymore. The thought was unsettling. "What are you planning?" he asked, a mix of curiosity and dread tightening in his chest. Chloe took a step closer, her expression resolute. "I want to show you how your actions have affected me. I'm not going to let you dictate my life anymore. I'll take control of my own narrative, and you'll see how it feels to be on the other side." Lucas's mind raced as he processed her declaration. This wasn't just a challenge. It was a direct confrontation of everything he had come to rely on. The fear that had begun to take root in his gut transformed into a knot of uncertainty. What if Chloe succeeded in turning the tables? What if she truly could manipulate the situation to her advantage? "Chloe, this isn't the way to fix things," he tried to reason, his voice softer now. "We can work together. I'm willing to change." She shook her head, her eyes flashing with determination. "It's too late for that, Lucas. You've made your choices, and now it's time for you to understand the consequences." In that moment, the dynamic between them shifted dramatically. Chloe's resolve was palpable, a stark contrast to Lucas's increasingly fragile grasp on control. He could sense that she was reclaiming her power, stepping into a role he had never anticipated. As she laid out her plan, Lucas felt a mixture of admiration and fear. He had thought he was the one orchestrating their relationship, but Chloe was proving to be a formidable opponent, one who could turn his own tactics against him. Over the next few days, Chloe began to implement her plan with quiet confidence. She started taking more control over their schedule, making plans with friends without consulting Lucas. Invitations to social gatherings flowed in, and she accepted them with a sense of freedom that left Lucas feeling sidelined. Each time she stepped out without him, he felt the walls closing in, his attempts to hold on to her slipping further away. At first, Lucas tried to dismiss his discomfort, believing he could weather the storm. However, as the days turned into weeks, he found himself grappling with a growing sense of isolation. He was no longer the center of Chloe's world, and the reality stung more than he expected. The luxury and charm he had once relied on to impress her now felt like mere distractions, ineffective against the strength of her resolve. The pivotal moment came during a dinner with friends when Chloe confidently engaged in conversations, her laughter echoing around the table. Lucas felt an unsettling mixture of pride and envy watching her shine. The more she interacted with others, the more he realized that he was losing her, not to another man, but to her own independence. It was a realization that struck him like a lightning bolt, illuminating the chasm that had formed between them. As Chloe's confidence grew, so did Lucas's fear. He began to question whether he could truly hold on to her if he continued down the path he was on. The control he had once wielded was slipping away, leaving him feeling vulnerable and exposed. The very tactics he had used to manipulate her were now being turned against him, and the sensation was unnerving. In private moments, Lucas struggled to regain his footing. "Chloe, can we talk?" he would say, attempting to bridge the gap between them, but she would often respond with a casual dismissiveness that only fueled his frustration. "Not now, Lucas. I have plans," she would reply, her tone firm yet measured, reinforcing the boundaries she was establishing. Each rejection chipped away at his confidence, leaving him feeling like a spectator in his own life. The realization that Chloe was no longer just a player in his game, but rather the one setting the rules, was a hard pill to swallow. He had spent his life crafting an image of success and control, and now he was faced with the unsettling truth that true power lay in vulnerability and acceptance. As the days unfolded, Lucas began to grapple with the uncomfortable notion that he needed to change, both for Chloe and for himself. The realization was daunting, but it sparked a glimmer of hope. Perhaps the only way to reclaim their relationship was to embrace Chloe's independence rather than resist it. The tables had indeed turned, and as he pondered the future, Lucas understood that the journey ahead would require more than just charm and wealth. It would demand authenticity, humility, and a willingness to grow alongside Chloe, no matter where that path might lead. As Lucas stood in front of the expansive windows of his penthouse, gazing out at the shimmering lights of New York City, he found himself lost in thought, reflecting on the whirlwind that had become his life. The once familiar skyline now felt like a distant memory, a backdrop to the internal turmoil brewing within him. The realization that he had been losing Chloe, the very person he had set out to win over, struck him with a force that was both humbling and unsettling. The past few weeks had been a tumultuous journey of self-discovery, forcing Lucas to confront the patterns of behavior that had governed his life. He had always prided himself on being a successful businessman, a man who commanded attention and respect through his wealth and charm. But as he reflected on his recent interactions with Chloe, he began to see a different narrative emerge, one marked by manipulation, control, and an overwhelming desire to assert dominance. The very qualities he had thought defined him were now revealed to be the chains that bound him. Lucas felt an internal struggle clawing at him, a conflict between his ingrained habits and the growing awareness of their consequences. He had built his identity around the notion of power, believing that success and control were the keys to happiness. Yet, with Chloe, he had failed to recognize that true strength lay not in dominating others, but in fostering genuine connections built on respect and mutual understanding. The juxtaposition of his past actions against the stark reality of his present was a bitter pill to swallow. In quiet moments of introspection, Lucas replayed the conversations he had had with Chloe, each argument, each dismissive comment, each attempt to isolate her. The weight of regret began to settle in, and he felt a pang of guilt gnawing at his conscience. He had taken for granted her resilience, her independence, and the very essence of who she was. In his pursuit of control, he had overlooked the value she brought to his life, reducing her to a mere pawn in his game. As days turned into nights, Lucas's perspective of Chloe evolved. He began to see her not just as a challenge or a woman he had married as part of a bet, but as a person of incredible strength and integrity. Chloe's unwavering commitment to her values, her passion for her work, and her refusal to conform to societal expectations became sources of admiration rather than obstacles to overcome. He realized that her independence was not a threat to his masculinity. Rather, it was a testament to her character, a quality he had long overlooked. This revelation sparked a profound transformation within Lucas. He understood that if he wanted to win Chloe's heart, he needed to redefine what winning meant. It wasn't about exerting control or impressing her with material wealth. It was about fostering a partnership based on equality and respect. The thought was both daunting and liberating, forcing him to confront the uncomfortable truth that he needed to change, not just for her, but for himself. The internal conflict reached its peak one evening as Lucas sat alone in his study, grappling with his emotions. The city lights twinkled outside, casting a warm glow across the room. He picked up a framed photo of Chloe, her smile radiant and genuine. In that moment, he felt a wave of clarity wash over him. He had to confront the fear of vulnerability that had held him captive for so long. He had been so focused on winning the bet that he had forgotten the most important aspect of any relationship: connection. Taking a deep breath, Lucas resolved to approach Chloe with honesty. It was time to lay bare his struggles, to express the regret he felt for how he had treated her. He understood that he had a long way to go, but he was determined to rebuild the trust that had eroded between them. When he finally mustered the courage to talk to her, Lucas found Chloe sitting on the balcony, her silhouette framed against the backdrop of the night sky. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with vulnerability. Chloe turned to him, her expression guarded but curious. "What's on your mind?" "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Lucas began, feeling the weight of his words. "About us, about how I've treated you. I see now that I've let my desire for control overshadow your needs and desires. I'm sorry for that." As he spoke, he felt the tightness in his chest loosen, the release of emotions he had bottled up for far too long. "I've realized that I've been selfish, and it's time for me to change. You're not just a challenge or a bet. You're an incredible woman, and I want to appreciate you for who you are." Chloe's gaze softened, and Lucas could see the flicker of hope in her eyes. In that moment, he understood that transformation was not just about acknowledging his flaws, but about making a conscious choice to evolve into a better partner. As the conversation unfolded, Lucas felt a sense of liberation wash over him. He was no longer the man clinging to control. He was a man embracing vulnerability, ready to face the future alongside Chloe, not as a manipulator, but as an equal. Their journey together was far from over, but he was finally ready to walk it hand in hand with her, valuing her not just as a partner, but as a person worthy of respect and admiration. The atmosphere in the penthouse was charged with an uneasy tension as Lucas sat across from Chloe, both uncertain of where their conversation would lead. After months of misunderstandings and conflicts, he had finally mustered the courage to lay bare his feelings, to admit his faults and express his desire to change. But even as he spoke, he sensed that there was something deeper lurking beneath Chloe's calm exterior, a weight she had been carrying alone. As they sat together, the city lights flickering outside, Chloe took a deep breath, her expression shifting from guarded to contemplative. "Lucas, I appreciate what you're saying," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "But there's something you need to know, something I've never shared with you." Lucas felt a knot form in his stomach as he watched her, sensing the gravity of what was to come. "What is it?" he asked, his heart racing. Chloe looked away for a moment, gathering her thoughts as she stared into the distance. "My father. He was a good man, Lucas. He worked tirelessly to provide for our family, and he always taught me the importance of integrity and hard work." Her voice wavered slightly, but she pressed on. "When I was a teenager, he started a small business, a dream he had nurtured for years. But it faced challenges, especially when bigger companies began to push him out of the market. It was hard for him to keep going, and he was under immense stress." Lucas felt a cold chill run down his spine as the pieces began to fall into place. He had spent years in the corporate world, unaware of the collateral damage his success might have inflicted on others. "I didn't know," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. Chloe continued, her eyes welling with tears. "One day, your company came in and made an offer for my father's business. It was a deal he couldn't refuse, but it destroyed him. He lost everything he had worked for, and he felt humiliated. I watched him sink into despair, and eventually, it became too much for him. He took his own life, Lucas." The revelation hit Lucas like a physical blow, leaving him stunned and speechless. He had always prided himself on his accomplishments, but now he was confronted with the devastating reality of how his actions had impacted a family. A rush of guilt washed over him, threatening to drown him in its depths. "I was so angry at the world," Chloe continued, her voice breaking. "I lost my father, the one person I could always rely on. I became determined to help others who had been hurt by corporate greed and injustice. That's why I became a community organizer, to fight for people like my dad." Lucas sat in stunned silence, grappling with the weight of her words. The realization that he had unknowingly contributed to Chloe's pain gnawed at him. He felt the ground beneath him shift as the guilt settled heavily in his chest. "Chloe, I had no idea," he finally managed to say, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't know it was your father's business. I never intended for any of this to happen." Chloe wiped a tear from her cheek and shook her head. "It's not just about that. When my father died, I was left with so much anger and grief. I was pregnant at the time." Her voice trembled as she spoke the words, and Lucas felt his heart clench painfully in his chest. The stress of losing him, combined with everything else, became too overwhelming. "I lost the baby." Lucas felt as though the wind had been knocked out of him. The weight of Chloe's revelation was almost unbearable, and he struggled to comprehend the enormity of her loss. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice filled with genuine remorse. "I had no idea. I can't believe you went through all of that. You shouldn't have had to bear that alone." Chloe met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and defiance. "I didn't want anyone to pity me, Lucas. I was determined to stand on my own 2 feet, to fight for what I believed in. But it took me a long time to process everything, to come to terms with the pain." As Lucas listened, he felt a deep sense of connection to Chloe. He realized that the barriers they had built around themselves were not just walls of pride and control, but also shields against their vulnerabilities. He had been so focused on winning the bet, on proving his worth, that he had overlooked the profound struggles that lay beneath the surface of their relationship. "Chloe, I can't change the past," Lucas said, his voice raw with emotion. "But I want to understand, and I want to be there for you. You deserve so much more than what I've given you." For the first time, Lucas felt the gravity of his actions fully. He had pursued success at any cost, blind to the ripple effects it created in the lives of others. Now, sitting across from the woman he had married as part of a bet, he understood that true wealth lay in the relationships he built and the lives he touched, not in the accumulation of power and status. "I want to support you in your fight for justice," he continued, feeling a new sense of purpose swell within him. "I want to help you honor your father's legacy in a way that makes a difference." Chloe's expression softened, and Lucas could see the flicker of hope behind her eyes. The revelation had been painful, but it had also opened a door to a deeper understanding between them. They were both flawed individuals, grappling with their pasts, but together they could forge a new path, one built on honesty, respect, and shared values. As they sat together in the quiet of the penthouse, surrounded by the city's pulsating energy, Lucas felt a sense of clarity wash over him. He was ready to embrace the complexities of their relationship, to face the challenges ahead with Chloe by his side. The journey would be difficult, but together they could transform their pain into purpose and build a future that honored their shared commitment to growth and understanding. In the aftermath of Chloe's revelation, Lucas found himself at a crossroads, burdened by guilt and a newfound understanding of the consequences of his actions. The impact of his past decisions weighed heavily on his conscience, and he felt a deep urgency to make amends. He realized that true redemption required more than just words, it demanded action. With a resolute heart, he decided to reach out to the families he had harmed, those who had suffered due to the ruthless business strategies he had once championed. The first step on this journey was the hardest. Lucas sat in his office, the glow of his computer screen illuminating the list of names before him. Each name represented a family whose life had been irrevocably altered by his decisions. He felt a knot form in his stomach as he contemplated the pain he had caused. Could he truly face them? What if they rejected him, or worse, what if they didn't want to hear what he had to say? Pushing through the wave of doubt, Lucas picked up the phone and dialed the number of the first family on his list, a couple who had lost their small business when Lucas's company expanded into their area. After several rings, a weary voice answered. "Hello, Mrs. Johnson." Lucas replied, his heart racing. "This is Lucas Marshall." Lucas Marshall," she interrupted, disbelief coloring her tone. "What do you want?" "I want to apologize," he said, his voice steady despite the nerves coursing through him. I know I can't change what happened, but I'd like to meet and discuss how I can help you." There was a long pause on the other end, and Lucas could almost hear the gears turning in her mind. "Help us," she finally said, skepticism threading through her words. "You've caused us enough pain already. Why should I believe you now?" "I know I don't deserve your trust," Lucas replied, feeling the weight of her anger. "But I want to take responsibility for my actions. Please, I'd like the chance to explain." After a tense exchange, they agreed to meet. Lucas's hands shook as he hung up the phone, a mixture of fear and determination surging through him. This was only the beginning, but he was ready to face the repercussions of his past. The meeting with the Johnsons took place in a small diner, the kind of place where the scent of coffee lingered in the air and the chatter of patrons filled the background. Lucas arrived early, his heart pounding in his chest as he replayed every word he planned to say. When the couple walked in, their expressions were a mix of skepticism and wariness. They took a seat across from him, and the weight of the moment settled heavily upon them. "Thank you for coming," Lucas began, his voice slightly shaking. "I know this isn't easy, but I wanted to apologize for the pain I caused you. When my company expanded, I didn't consider the impact it would have on your business and your lives. I'm truly sorry." The silence that followed was deafening. Mrs. Johnson's eyes filled with tears, and Lucas felt a pang of regret for the hurt he had inflicted. "You took everything from us," she said, her voice cracking. "We lost our livelihood, our dreams. My husband had to take on 2 jobs just to make ends meet. You destroyed our lives." Lucas listened, swallowing hard as her words resonated deep within him. "I can't take back what happened, but I want to help," he said, his voice earnest. "I'm offering compensation to help you rebuild. It's not enough, but I hope it can ease some of your burden." Mr. Johnson leaned forward, his expression cautious. "Why should we accept your money? You think it will fix the damage you've done." "It won't fix everything," Lucas admitted, "but I want to take responsibility. I'm trying to make things right. Please let me help." After a long, emotional conversation, the Johnsons reluctantly agreed to accept the compensation. Lucas felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. The road to redemption had begun, but it was paved with pain and regret. Over the next few weeks, Lucas continued to reach out to other families he had affected. Each meeting was a new challenge, a confrontation with the ghosts of his past. He met with the family of a former competitor who had lost everything, a single mother struggling to support her children, and countless others whose lives had been upended by his decisions. Each conversation was marked by tears, anger, and heartbreak, yet there was also a flicker of hope as Lucas offered his apologies and the opportunity for restitution. Through it all, Chloe observed Lucas's efforts from a distance, her heart a mix of caution and hope. She had been hesitant to fully trust his transformation, but as she watched him confront his past, she felt a glimmer of belief in his sincerity. Lucas was stepping outside of himself, accepting the consequences of his actions in a way she had never seen before. One evening, after a particularly emotional meeting, Lucas returned home, exhausted but fulfilled. As he walked into the penthouse, Chloe was sitting on the couch, her eyes watching him intently. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice gentle. "It was tough," he admitted, sinking into the chair across from her. "But it felt right. I can't undo the damage I've done, but I'm finally starting to understand the weight of my actions." Chloe nodded, her expression softening. "I'm proud of you, Lucas. It takes a lot of courage to face the people you've harmed. I know this journey won't be easy, but it's a step in the right direction." Her words ignited a spark of determination within him. He realized that this journey of redemption was not just about making amends, it was also about rebuilding their relationship. Lucas wanted to show Chloe that he was committed to being a better man, not just for himself, but for her and for the future they could build together. As Lucas embarked on this journey, he felt a shift within himself. The road ahead was long and fraught with challenges, but he was ready to face them, armed with a sense of purpose and a commitment to making things right. Together, he and Chloe could navigate the complexities of their past, paving the way for a future defined by growth, understanding, and love. In the weeks following Lucas's journey of redemption, the atmosphere in the penthouse began to shift. The weight of unspoken words and unresolved tensions that had once hung heavily in the air gradually dissipated, replaced by a newfound openness between Lucas and Chloe. Their conversations, once fraught with conflict and misunderstandings, began to evolve into heartfelt discussions where they could share their feelings, fears, and desires without fear of judgment. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Chloe decided to initiate a conversation that had been brewing in her mind. "Lucas," she began, her voice soft yet steady, "I've been thinking a lot about everything we've been through. It's been difficult, but I feel like we're finally starting to communicate more honestly." Lucas nodded, his heart racing at the prospect of discussing their relationship so openly. "I agree. I think we both needed to confront our pasts before we could move forward. I've realized how important it is for us to share our feelings instead of bottling them up." Encouraged by his response, Chloe took a deep breath. "I want you to know that I'm willing to try. I want to understand who you are now, beyond the man I married for a bet. I need to see if you're truly committed to this relationship." Her words resonated deeply with Lucas, and he felt a surge of determination to prove himself. "I am committed, Chloe. I'm committed to being the partner you deserve, and I want to rebuild the trust that we lost along the way." As they continued to talk, they shared their hopes and dreams, unveiling layers of their personalities that had previously remained hidden. Lucas spoke of his ambitions in business, expressing his desire to create a company that prioritized ethics over profit. In return, Chloe shared her passion for community organizing, emphasizing her goal to empower others and make a real difference in people's lives. Their discussions turned from light-hearted banter to deep conversations about their pasts, their mistakes, and what they truly wanted for their future. Each moment of vulnerability brought them closer together, as they began to dismantle the walls that had formed between them. Lucas found himself captivated by Chloe's determination and spirit, while she discovered a side of him that was genuine and introspective, traits she had never seen before. Yet, as they ventured into this new territory of openness, Chloe remained cautious. While she could see Lucas's genuine efforts, the scars of their past still lingered in the corners of her mind. She needed time to process her feelings and to test Lucas's sincerity before fully opening her heart again. "Can I trust you?" Chloe asked one evening, her gaze steady. "Trust isn't built overnight, and I don't want to rush into anything if you're not ready for the long haul." Lucas felt a pang of understanding at her hesitation. "I completely understand. Trust takes time, and I'm willing to be patient. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm serious about us." The days turned into weeks, and as Lucas continued to demonstrate his commitment, Chloe gradually allowed herself to entertain the idea of reconciliation. They began to spend more time together, embarking on new adventures that fostered their connection. They visited art galleries, attended local community events, and even volunteered together at a shelter, activities that reflected their shared values and interests. During these moments, Lucas made a conscious effort to ensure Chloe felt empowered and respected. He actively listened to her ideas and opinions, encouraging her to take the lead whenever she felt passionate about something. Each time he did this, Chloe felt the lingering doubts within her begin to fade. She started to see Lucas not just as the man who had made mistakes, but as someone who was truly striving to change and grow. One afternoon, while walking through Central Park, Chloe paused to observe a group of children playing. "This is what I want to fight for," she said, her eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "I want to make sure kids like these have opportunities and resources to thrive." Lucas watched her with admiration, feeling a sense of pride swell in his chest. "You're making a difference, Chloe. I'm inspired by your passion, and I want to support you in any way I can." She turned to him, a soft smile gracing her lips. "That means a lot to me. It's nice to feel supported, especially by you." Their exchange was filled with an unspoken understanding, a quiet acknowledgement that they were both willing to invest in this new chapter together. The rebuilding process was slow, but with each step, They were forging a deeper connection grounded in respect and shared dreams. However, as they navigated this new phase, Chloe continued to test Lucas's sincerity. She would occasionally challenge him with tough questions, probing into his motivations and desires. "What do you really want out of this relationship?" she would ask, her gaze piercing. "Is it truly me, or is it just the idea of having someone to control?" Each time, Lucas responded with honesty, reflecting on his journey and the growth he had experienced. "I want to be with you, Chloe. I want to share a life with you, not one where I control every aspect, but one where we both have equal say. I want to learn from you and grow with you." As their relationship deepened, Chloe slowly began to let her guard down. The cautious hope she had harbored transformed into a blossoming belief in the possibility of a future together. Lucas's commitment to change, coupled with his genuine respect for her independence, had begun to reshape her view of their marriage. In moments of laughter and joy, Chloe saw glimpses of the man Lucas could be, a man willing to embrace vulnerability and work towards a shared future. And with each passing day, as they rebuilt their relationship together, she felt the barriers that had once separated them crumble, replaced by a burgeoning sense of trust and understanding that had the potential to bind them together in ways neither of them had expected. The moment Chloe discovered she was pregnant, a wave of emotions washed over her: joy, excitement, and a hint of apprehension. She had always envisioned this milestone, but now it came intertwined with the complexities of her relationship with Lucas. As she held the small positive test in her hands, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come since their initial, tumultuous marriage. This child was a symbol of their love, a testament to the growth and understanding they had cultivated together. After sharing the news with Lucas, the look of sheer joy on his face melted away any lingering doubts. "We should have a real wedding," he said, his eyes shining with excitement. "One that reflects our love, our journey, and this new life we're about to create together." The idea resonated deeply with Chloe. She had always yearned for a celebration that honored their commitment to one another, not merely a bet. The planning began with both of them fully engaged, brainstorming ideas that would truly capture the essence of their relationship. They opted for an intimate ceremony at a small local vineyard, a picturesque setting that reflected the warmth and beauty of their connection. The venue was surrounded by lush greenery and blooming vines, the perfect backdrop for a celebration rooted in love and hope. On the day of the ceremony, the air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the gentle hum of nature, a serene contrast to the bustling city life they were accustomed to. Chloe wore a simple yet elegant white dress that flowed gracefully as she walked, her heart racing with anticipation. She felt radiant, not just because of the wedding but also because of the new life growing within her. Lucas waited for her at the altar, looking dapper in a tailored suit that fit him perfectly. As their eyes met, the world around them faded away. It was just the two of them standing at the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. The officiant spoke words of love and commitment, but Chloe and Lucas were lost in each other's gaze, feeling the profound significance of this moment. When it came time to exchange vows, Chloe's voice was steady, filled with emotion as she expressed her heartfelt promises. "Lucas, I vow to love you unconditionally, to support you in your dreams, and to build a life together that honors both of our passions. I promise to be your partner in every sense, as we navigate this journey together." Lucas's response was equally heartfelt. "Chloe, I promise to cherish you, to respect you, and to stand by your side as we embrace the challenges and joys of life. You have shown me the meaning of love, and I will spend every day proving that I am worthy of your trust." With those vows, the couple solidified their commitment, the air around them charged with emotion and love. The simple exchange of rings, unadorned by extravagance, symbolized their promise to each other, an acknowledgment of the journey they had taken and the road that lay ahead. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the small gathering of family and friends erupted in applause, the warmth of their love radiating through the vineyard. The ceremony was not marked by grand displays or lavish decorations, but was instead filled with genuine joy and heartfelt connections. It was a day that would forever hold a special place in their hearts. Following the ceremony, they celebrated with an intimate reception, filled with laughter, shared stories, and heartfelt toasts. Lucas and Chloe mingled with their loved ones, soaking in the warmth and support that surrounded them. As they danced under the stars, they felt a sense of unity, a shared understanding of the challenges they had faced and the love that had brought them together. In the days that followed, Lucas and Chloe began to build their new life together, focused on their future as parents and partners. They engaged in conversations about their dreams, parenting styles, and how they envisioned raising their child. This openness fostered an environment of trust, where they could express their fears and hopes without judgment. As they moved forward, Lucas embraced his role not just as a husband but as a father. He was determined to be present and supportive, eager to create a nurturing home for their growing family. Together, they painted a vision of love, trust, and collaboration, a stark contrast to the control and manipulation that had once defined their relationship. With each passing day, Lucas and Chloe grew closer, their bond strengthening as they navigated the joys and challenges of impending parenthood. The renewed wedding was more than a ceremony. It was a celebration of their commitment to each other, a fresh start built on the lessons of their past. With their love as a foundation, they were ready to embrace the beautiful journey that lay ahead, hand in hand, heart to heart. The journey of Lucas and Chloe is a testament to the transformative power of love, growth, and forgiveness. From the outset, their relationship was fraught with challenges, built on the shaky foundation of a bet. Yet, through struggles and misunderstandings, they learned invaluable lessons about themselves and each other. Lucas's initial arrogance and need for control gradually gave way to introspection and vulnerability. He discovered that true love isn't about possession but rather about respect, understanding, and mutual support. Chloe's fierce independence challenged Lucas to reflect on his past actions, ultimately leading him to seek redemption and change. Her strength and resilience inspired him to become a better man, not just for himself, but for her and their future family. Together, they navigated the complexities of their relationship, fostering open communication and rebuilding trust. Their renewed wedding symbolized not just a commitment to one another, but a celebration of their growth and the deep bond they had forged through adversity. As their story unfolds, it raises profound questions about the nature of forgiveness and the possibilities of second chances. Can we truly move past our mistakes and learn from them? Are we willing to forgive those who have wronged us and embrace the potential for change? Lucas and Chloe's journey illustrates that while the path to healing can be difficult, it is often paved with hope and the willingness to start anew. In life, we all face moments where we must confront our past decisions and their consequences. It takes courage to admit our flaws and to seek forgiveness from those we've hurt. Lucas's journey serves as a reminder that change is possible and that love can flourish when nurtured with honesty and commitment. What are your thoughts on forgiveness and second chances? Have you experienced a situation where someone's willingness to change altered your perspective? We invite you to share your insights in the comments below. Engaging with our community enriches these narratives, allowing us to explore the complexities of human relationships together. If Lucas and Chloe's story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more uplifting tales of love, redemption, and personal growth. Each story we share is a glimpse into the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of connection. Join us on this journey, and let's continue to explore the beautiful intricacies of life and love together. Thank you for being part of our community. This outline provides a comprehensive framework for a story that not only exceeds 5,000 words, but also preserves the essence of the original content. Each section is designed to delve deeper into the characters' development, exploring their individual arcs as they navigate the complexities of their relationship. The outline meticulously addresses the evolving dynamics between Lucas and Chloe, highlighting their struggles, growth, and the transformative power of love and forgiveness. Throughout their journey, the narrative will illuminate the lessons learned, emphasizing the importance of communication, vulnerability, and the courage to change. By intricately weaving together their experiences, this outline sets the stage for a rich and engaging story that resonates with readers on multiple levels.